Hi listeners, old and new. Coach Kevin Dunn here with another weekly injection of fitness facts. So last week I got into a conversation with someone about arms. I was out at a coffee shop and someone asked me what exercise I do for my forearms and then got in an argument with me when he refused to believe that the answer was I don't train them. Reminded me of a funny anecdote by the actor Rowan Atkinson, who was in a car dealership when someone said, "You look like that fellow that plays Mr. Bean." When he confirmed that he was indeed the actor who played Mr. Bean, he was then confronted with an angry person who didn't believe him and didn't appreciate being trolled. So, what's the deal here? Do some people really just have big forearms, big calves, or any other muscle group? Well, yeah, maybe. But also, whilst I don't directly train my arms, I do still hit them in my training. This is called indirect training. So I train in judo, and there's a fairly significant importance on grip strength. Being able to hold on to your opponent and throw them is kind of the key concept. Regular listeners will know I also train in gymnastics, another sport with a lot of grip involved. So indirect training can be a powerful intervention. And why? Well, let's think about the animal kingdom. So visualize for a moment, if you can, the vast African savanna. Tall grasses being swept side to side by the warm breeze, and over the horizon stomps an elephant, followed closely by a herd of gazelle. The gazelle skip lightly over the land as the elephant treads somewhat more heavily because they have vastly different leg sizes. Now, I've not seen elephants doing squats, so what gives? Well, an elephant needs to have big legs to support its large body mass, large torso, and the gazelle, well, it just doesn't. So the supporting structure underneath the main load is under compression and will increase in diameter to be able to support the load above. So this would also be true for us if we're looking to utilize indirect training. And also, if we think back to the episode on resisting the aging process, we discussed just this when we identified the barbell squat as a great exercise for hedging against the processes of sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass, and osteopenia, loss of bone mineral density, because most of your body will be below the barbell in the squat, making it a superior choice for increasing muscle mass and bone density throughout the whole body, irrespective of the fact that traditionally we would consider the squat to be a leg exercise. So what does this mean for training arms? Well, it means that if we can figure out which compound movements allow us to train our arms by having them directly underneath the load, we can take advantage of that time under tension to indirectly train our arms without having to necessarily set aside a dedicated arm exercise or two. I certainly know I don't have the time to do 15 to 20 minutes of wrist and forearm curls, so if you're also in a time crunch, prioritizing exercises with compound movements and not isolated movements could make your training more efficient. Now, in terms of choice here, both the strict press, also known as the military press or standing overhead press, and bench press would be great choices because both of them have your arms underneath the load. I'd probably favor the bench press over and above the strict press because you'll be under more load because people can typically bench more than they can press overhead. Now, aside from training your forearms indirectly to look jacked, there are great and important reasons why we would want to have forearm strength. And that's because the forearm muscles are involved in manipulation of the thumb and in different types of gripping, from a pinch grip to the cylindrical grip, like when you're opening a tub of protein or a jar. And in terms of the aging process, grip strength has been shown in studies, including a meta-analysis with over 2 million participants, to be a reliable indicator of mortality, specifically in cancer patients. So, the overall message here is that if you want to have big arms, we need to expand our mindset beyond the gym bro mentality, because usually when you say arm exercises to people, they immediately think of bicep curls. From an aesthetic perspective, I can understand why, because the biceps are on the front of the body where you and others can see and admire them. But the whole arm needs to be trained if you want to stay fit and healthy. Ed Coan, the greatest powerlifter of all time, said that biceps were like ornaments on a Christmas tree. In fact, if we're talking about pure muscle mass, the triceps are significantly larger muscles in the arm, and triceps training would therefore result in bigger increases in muscle size throughout the arm than biceps training would. So, if you're planning on a gun show this summer, I would focus on large upper body compound movements like the bench press and the standing overhead press, which will not only help to indirectly increase your arm size, but also aid in our pursuit of health. In my very first episode here, we defined fitness as the absence of disease, and therefore it would be somewhat unusual of me not to circle back to how we can improve our physical condition overall, rather than just a singular athletic or aesthetic ideal. So, go forth, train your biceps and forearms with compound pulls like pull-ups, train your triceps and shoulders with compound presses. Any questions for me about training or otherwise, send me an email at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com, and I'll be so happy to hear from you. Get Fit Guy is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Adam Cecil, Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchings, Davina Tomlin, and our intern Cameron Lacey. I'm your host, Kevin Don. If you have a question for me, leave me a voicemail at 510-353-3104 or send me an email at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. For more information about the show, visit quickanddirtytips.com or check out the show notes in your podcast app.